So I think one of the things that was so important for me to understand was actually how to avoid burnout, right? Like the biggest enemy of any salesperson in their day to day or even in their career is just trying to understand like how to manage the stress. It was back in 2020, right? Like peak COVID, peak like pandemic. I was going through a massive wave of anxiety, burnout, and stress. And hey, here's the thing, I've already been in sales at this point for a few years, but I was still new, I was still a beginner. And this is what I wish my younger self actually knew back in that time frame, which is how to understand the seasons of life that you're in. And, you know, for anyone out there who might be Christian, this might be a familiar topic to you, but even if you're not religious, I think the concept and principle and just the philosophy here is the number one thing that could have helped me actually, one, avoid that burnout before it actually happened. But two, when you're in that rut, when you're in that slump, when you're in that down period, how do I actually get out of it? So this is not even sales, guys. Like this is for any young man or young woman who might be in that period right now of life where you just feel stuck, you feel stagnant, you're just tired of the day to day. I really invite you guys to pay close attention to this because who knows where I would have been if I just understood this principle of know your season in life. So let me define that, right? Like, what is a season of life? The best way to really think about this is think about the seasons that we have on Earth. So we have winter, you have summer, spring, fall, right? Every season comes with a different environment, different circumstance that is out of our control, right? I can't change winter from happening. I can't change summer from happening. But what I can do is adjust accordingly and live in alignment with what the season brings me. And the difference between people who are crushing it, killing it, and really being at the top of their game to those who are struggling is the people at the top who are doing well are in alignment with their season, not struggling through it. So there's like four key seasons that I see personally in life. We have your wealth building season, we have our relationship building season, we have our health season, and the last one, we have your spiritual, or if you're not spiritual, your self season, right? So let me talk through it one by one. Wealth season, what is this? A wealth season is any season where you are focused on building, building wealth, building your money, building your career, right? Building your influence. This is our vocation in life. And one of the biggest mistakes that I see a lot of people do is they lose momentum because they didn't allow a season to properly take fold, right? So wealth seasons I've found take time. You got to allow momentum to stack and to build. And so for you guys out there who are looking to maybe get into sales or take your sales to the next level, you might be entering a wealth building season right now. And one of the best things that I have learned to actually create is creating a rhythm with my wealth seasons and according to the other seasons of life. So let me give you an example. Back in the beginning of last year in 2023, I entered a massive wealth building season. I was stepping into sales leadership more, sales coaching, sales management. And the season prior was definitely like a self and fun season, right? Like I just recently moved to New York. I was going out with my friends, making new relationships. I was going out to like a bunch of shows and concerts. And the truth was, if I continued that season of having fun into my wealth season when I was supposed to be building my career, building my wealth, you're in an uphill battle, my friend. And so one of the things that I've learned is to really plan and be intentional with when your wealth seasons are, right? And what's really key there is, remember, this is not a forever thing. This is a finite thing that has deadlines, that is pre-planned, and most importantly, has an agreement for when it will start and when it will end, right? For you guys who might be in corporate or understand like the 9 to 5, like kind of like corporate planning, it's like people who plan their quarters like before they enter it into it. So maybe you do your Q1 planning, right? That's creating a 90-day push where you have initiatives, you have projects that you're really focusing in. I started to make commitments and agreements with myself. It's like, all right, from April up until September, I'm going all in on this business and I'm only focusing on that thing. You might need to step into a season of saying no. So you might be saying less to parties, you might say less to going out, you might be going into what they see on YouTube as like monk mode, where you're really focused on staying sober and creating healthy habits, right? It's important to align the rest of your life when you're stepping into this season of wealth, because it allows us to really work with it as opposed to against it, right? So when you're in that wealth building season, I think it's really important to understand that like, hey, it's not going to be forever, right? It might be a 3-month period, might be a 6-month period, might be a 1 and 2 year period, whatever it is, whatever you decide on the timeline of that, just make sure that you set it and you also have a deadline, because it's that light at the end of the tunnel that actually allows us to know that, hey, for this 3 to 6 month period, I'm going all in and you can give it your all. Because I would rather have 100% in a 90-day period than have 40 to 50% of your potential and your attention for a year-long period, right? So that's what's really important about a wealth building season. Now, from there, we want to also make sure we're avoiding burning out, right? Because back in 2020, when I was burning out, I started to fall out of love with sales. In fact, I was like, dude, I don't even know if I could continue doing this thing anymore, right? And that was something that I had fallen in love with and was starting to fall out of love with, was because I was burning out, was because I was stressful. And I didn't understand this concept of seasons. So what I've done is I've engineered my years and my months and my weeks to understand what is the overall season that I'm going through. So it's important to not just have one season, but it's important to understand how to cultivate and create harmony and balance with all the different seasons that you have. So when I stepped out of a wealth building season, I knew that I had to create and continue to cultivate relationships with my close inner circle of family and friends. So after September, I actually then started into a mini relationship season. I was like, all right, cool. It's time for me to get back in dating. It's time for me to go back and cultivate some trips with my friends, right? And that's important because we're human beings. We're not robots, guys. Like, we're not paid Facebook ads. We're just marketing and we're AI and we don't have emotions. Like, we are a human being, and it's important to have balance in our other aspects. Relationships are one of the most important things that add the color to life. I think it was Ray Dalio. He said the two most important things are meaningful work and meaningful relationships. So, sure, maybe you just want to lock yourself in your room for 2-3 years. Great. You might build a business that does super well. But, and I made this mistake before, is you might start to actually lose relationships, lose connections that are important. You might to actually just start to, be fulfilled and feel the color of life because your relationships are poor. I've seen way too many entrepreneurs, guys, where they have the money, they've achieved their goals, they've created all the success in business, but they don't have a family, they have bad relationships with their friends, and they're alone. And the last thing, and I'm personally speaking, this might not be true for you. The last thing that I want is to get to the top and not have anyone there with me, right? The people who've supported me, who've loved me, who are there from day one. I want to bring them there with me. So it's important for us to also include relationship seasons. So if you're someone, let's say, who maybe you're married, right? And you have your wife and your kids, it's really important that you create these co-agreements, these co-commitments with your family to know, hey, I'm going to be grinding for 3 to 6 months from, let's say, January up until June. I'm going to be 100% focused on my business. And there might be less time for us to, have family time. There might be less time for us to have dates, honey. There might be less time where we're going on family vacation. But after June, we're going to go on a 2-week vacation to Hawaii. I'm going to be there more at home. I want to be, fully present there. I want to take you guys out. Like, you want to have this like ebb and flow of relationships as well as building your business. So it's important for us to truly understand that at the end of the day, it can't just be one or the other. How do we create a life of and, not a life of or? And how we do that is we map out the relationship season with the wealth building season, right? Understand where all of these actually coexist. So from there, I'm also thinking about my other seasons in life. So let's talk about health. I think if you get to the end of your life and you have all the money, you have all the relationships, but your health is piss poor, then you've not really lived a long and meaningful life in that. Because how can you enjoy all the fruits of your labors? How can you enjoy the riches, the money you have? And also, how can you enjoy the relationships and be present if your health is deteriorating, right? So for me, it's really important to, once I have, these other foundations, I might make, an intention to improve my fitness. So maybe you're trying to lose weight and maybe you enter a 2 to 3 month period where you lose that weight, or maybe you have a goal to run your first marathon or to gain your black belt. You might start stepping into a season of health there. So it's really important for us to, once we actually have created that momentum in health, that we can also continue to maintain it. Because this is the thing that I found with health, is once you've gained the foundations and principles through at least 1 or 2 core health seasons, right? Like maybe you have a summer where if you've gained a little bit of weight or you're not as fit as you want or as healthy as you want, you take a 90-day period to get back in the gym and start building the fundamentals. Then from there, it's in maintenance mode, right? You might not have to be going to the gym 5 to 6 times a week anymore, but you might just be doing it 2 or 3 times a week. Maybe you go on a run once or twice a week. You've gained a position of power where you can continue to just keep this stuff in maintenance. That's the cool thing with the health season, is you don't have to have it every single time. You can really just interject it to build momentum and then continue to have it in maintenance mode. And that health season, when done properly, allows you to show up to sales and your business and your work with much more energy, much more productivity. And it's also just gonna, most important thing, have a long life that you get to enjoy with your family and your friends, right? And last but not least, the self, or what I like to call the spiritual season. So I, in college, lost a lot of my faith or connection with God. I grew up Catholic. I was raised in the church. And at 18 years old, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you guys, I got burnt out on the church. So throughout college, I didn't really have a strong relationship with God, right? And at the time, it was okay because I was having fun and all these things. But I realized when I graduated that there was a very big void in my life, which was my spiritual life. So once I actually entered a spiritual season after college, I found my, if not my most powerful source, which is my relationship with my creator. So, I, to the best attempt, not perfect, but in that season, I learned how to go back to church. I learned how to be in community with other believers. I learned how to go back and read my Bible. I learned how to pray and meditate and do things like, just being with my creator in solitude. That this is a spiritual practice that I do every single day now, right? And it's like clockwork. It's automatic. It's just like taking a shower every day. It's very simple. But it's because of that spiritual season that not only did my business grow from that season, not only did my relationships grow from that season, not only did my health grow from that season, but the level of fulfillment, level of joy, the level of happiness that derives from actually having a spiritual connection is one of the best things that I get to really be blessed with, right? So if you're not spiritual, then the way that I'm actually thinking about this is a self season. So maybe it's just more alone time. Maybe it's focusing on your mental health. Maybe it's focusing on just you wanting to improve your self-talk and overcome your insecurities, right? Maybe it's you go back to therapy, whatever it might be, right? Find the tool, find the process that speaks with you to eliminate the outside noise and increase the voice inside of you to your most authentic self, right? And so it's really important for us to not just live in, the money, live in the health, live in the relationships, but to live inside of our own inner world. Because I'm going to tell you guys right now that energy is a real thing. In sales, it is a transference of energy. And if your energy and spirit is not primed, is not fueled by something greater than yourself, right? What ends up happening is you just live through life, but don't actually enjoy and experience life. So for me, when I understood that there's these moments where we have to balance and align, and most importantly, understand the season that we're in, that is when we're actually equipped to ride the wave that's ahead of us. So just to recap, guys, the 4 seasons: wealth building season, relationship building season, health building season, and spiritual/self season. If you guys actually start to, one, understand and ask yourself what season I'm in, but then two, align the rest of your life to following the rhythm of these seasons, that's when you can really start playing this game on easy mode, right? So that's my encouragement for you guys, is start just playing around with the idea of season. Understand where you're at. And most importantly, what is the next season that you're being called into? You do that, and everything will start to fall in place. Things will be less stressful. You'll come in with much more joy. You'll come in with a tenacity and hunger to tackle life. And with that, sayonara, sensei out.